Hello everyone and welcome to listen to a book every day. I'm Akenjia. Today, we're going to share the book Mini Habits by Stephen Guys. Unlike the authors of the books we discussed before who were either celebrities, social elites or national leaders, Guys is just an ordinary home buddy. Much like most of us, he lives an imperfect life. He loves fun and comfort, wants to avoid hard work, and indulges in ease. But it was this ordinary person who, starting in 2012, insisted on doing at least one push-up every day. 2 years later, he had the physique he dreamed of, wrote 4 times as many articles as before, and read 10 times as many books as he used to. His blog post, The One Push-Up Challenge, became incredibly popular, and even now, people still message him to say how it inspired them to keep exercising. Guy's ordinariness is precisely what makes his transformation so meaningful for us ordinary people. His change was blind. He studied the patterns of how humans build habits, used himself as a guinea pig, and showed us exactly how to cultivate good habits. It was through the method he discovered mini habits that he built numerous positive routines. Doing at least one push-up a day was his first mini habit, and even the book we're discussing today was completed by sticking to a daily writing mini habit. So how did the author achieve this remarkable turnaround? We'll break this down into 3 questions today. First, what are mini habits? Second, why are mini habits so effective for building habits? Third, how can we apply mini habits in our lives? Before we define mini habits, let's look at our usual approaches to building habits. We generally rely on 2 strategies. One is motivation-based pumping ourselves up with enthusiasm. The other is willpower-based gritting our teeth and persisting. For example, if we want a great physique and plan to hit the gym daily, we might tell ourselves, I want to become a better version of myself. I want an athlete's body. That's the pumped up motivation strategy. The willpower strategy, by contrast, would have us repeat, I must push through. I won't go home until I finish this lap. No pain, no gain. This is forcing ourselves to persist through sheer will. Most people tend to favor the motivation strategy because willpower feels so hard to control. Sometimes it's just not strong enough to sustain a habit. Many self-help and willpower books also tell us to set lofty goals, visualize a bright future, and let that motivation drive us. Some even advise making our goals public to pressure ourselves into sticking with them. But the author argues that while the motivation strategy might work occasionally, it's utterly unreliable in the long run. Why is the motivation strategy unreliable? First, motivation is a feeling, and actions based on feelings are easily swayed by external factors and mood swings. If you argue with a colleague at work, your mood shifts. Even low blood sugar from hunger or a bad meal can affect how you feel. To sum in the motivation to exercise, your desire to work out has to outweigh your urge to lie on the couch eating fries and watching TV, and most days, the couch wins, because motivation is so vulnerable to life's little ups and downs. It's a shaky foundation for habit building. Second, motivation suffers from diminishing marginal returns. Think about eating pizza. The first slice tastes amazing. The second is still good, but by the 4th or 5th, you feel indifferent. The pleasure fades with each repetition, and so does your motivation. That's why we start with enthusiasm but soon slack off. Our motivation system weakens over time, making persistence harder and harder. You might be thinking, okay, so the motivation strategy is flawed, but the willpower strategy isn't much better. My willpower is limited too, and books say willpower gets exhausted. I can keep going once it's gone. You're absolutely right, willpower has its limits. But there is a solution: mini habits. A mini habit is an extremely scaled down version of the habit you want to build. For example, instead of aiming for 100 push-ups a day, you do one. Instead of writing 3,000 words daily, you write 30. Instead of keeping a full journal, you jot down just 1 or 2 things. When you shrink a habit to an almost ridiculous degree, that's a mini habit. The author believes mini habits solve the problem of insufficient willpower in habit building. Now, let's tackle the second question. Why do mini habits work? To answer that, we first need to look at what stops us from building habits. In reality, we face 2 main obstacles. The first is getting started. Suppose you want to build an exercise habit, but you are used to flopping on the couch to watch TV after work. The thought of upping that comfort for sweating it out on a treadmill is daunting. You might think, I'm too tired from working overtime today. I'll start tomorrow. This tomorrow mentality can drag on for a month, and you will never lace up your shoes. What's holding you back is fear of starting. The action itself feels too hard, too intimidating. Taking that first step becomes a huge hurdle. The second obstacle, even if you summon the courage to start, is sticking with it. Imagine you finally force yourself onto the treadmill, vowing to run for an hour, but after just 5 or 10 minutes, you're gasping for air. With 50 minutes still to go, every cell in your body screams rest. Next time you think about running, the memory of that failed attempt makes you even more hesitant. How can a new habit survive this? The author struggled with these exact problems. He wanted a better physique but could never keep up with exercise until a chance insight changed everything. One day, he sat in front of a treadmill at the gym, feeling defeated and helpless. Then he read a book he'd read. To solve a problem, try thinking about its opposite. For inspiration, for example, if you want to build a skyscraper, ask, what if I build a structure that goes deep underground instead? He immediately applied this to his exercise dilemma. What's the opposite of committing to 30 minutes of grueling, sweat-drenched exercise? What if the goal was just one simple push-up? You might be thinking, 1 push-up? That's useless. Aerobics needs to be 30 minutes or more to count. Doing 1 is the same as doing nothing. The author thought the same at first, but his original plan, an hour of exercise, was impossible to stick to. Desperate, he decided to try it anyway. What the hell? 1 push-up is better than nothing. When he actually dropped to the floor and did that 1 push-up, his life changed for the better. Because 1 push-up is so absurdly easy. After finishing it, he thought, since I'm already here, I might as well do a few more. After those, he thought, how about 1 pull-up? That's easy too. So he did 1, then a few more. By then, his muscles were warmed up, and he felt like doing more. What started as a plan for 1 push-up turned into 30 minutes of various exercises. This experience deeply impacted him. The next day, he wrote the 1 push-up challenge, still the most popular post on his blog. Throughout 2013, he kept demanding just 1 push-up from himself each day. Of course, he usually did more. Sometimes, he'd remember right before bed and roll over to do 1 push-up on his bed, even if he finished at the last second. That feeling of easy, consistent success was incredible. He noticed 2 things. First, even just a few push-ups a day physically and mentally transformed him. His body became firmer, and his muscles developed. Second, as exercise became routine, working out regularly got easier and easier. 6 months later, he went from working out at home to hitting the gym. Later, he replicated this method in other areas, like reading and writing, with great success. Want to draw every day? Don't aim to finish a painting, just draw 1 stroke. The book we're discussing today was written by sticking to any goal, 50 words a day. The author's experience shows that accumulating seemingly trivial positive actions yields astonishing results, and the 2 obstacles to habit building are bypassed without us even noticing. Let's see. The first obstacle is lack of motivation to start. But mini habits are so small, ridiculously small, that we don't fear beginning. It's just one push up, just 50 words. Compared to your abilities, the task is absurdly easy, and you're certain you can do it. Once you take that first step and hit the small goal, you'll want to expand your success. I can do more. My ability is more than enough. Even if you start slow, as long as you're moving in the right direction, you've broken through the first obstacle. You can achieve it effortlessly. There's no can to keep going barrier. You feel no pressure. Instead, you're motivated because you easily surpass your goal, which makes you happy. This approach lets you bypass both major obstacles. You might be wondering, this sounds interesting, but the effect is so small. What's the point of one push-up or 50 words? That's because you don't understand how the brain works. In fact, the brain resists change. Building big, hard-to-form habits requires a lot of willpower, and we can maintain full willpower indefinitely. Mini habits let us set goals so small they barely use any willpower, allowing the brain to start acting before it has a chance to resist. Once you start an action like doing one push-up, you lie to keep going and do extra. Because we inherently want to take positive action, resistance fades once we begin. As the author discovered, the preparation for one push-up is the same as for several. Doing one more feels like a win. If you've already written 50 words and your thoughts are flowing, writing 50 more feels trivial. That's how the brain is gently nudged forward, step by step toward your goals. With mini habits, every small daily success builds momentum and strengthens your ability to stick to routines. You won't feel guilty or defeated for missing a goal. Instead, the built-in spiral of motivation keeps you going, turning tiny actions into the big habits you want. Mini habits are the fulcrum that leverages small actions to move big goals, the key to growing small behaviors into lasting habits. Now the third question: how to apply mini habits in life. The author outlines 8 steps in the book. 1. Choose a mini habit and set your daily plan. For example, 1 push-up a day or 50 words a day. 2. Uncover the intrinsic value of each mini habit. Ask yourself, what benefits will this habit bring? Why do I want to write daily? Why exercise? Clarify these reasons. 3. Integrate the mini habit into your schedule. Decide on a specific start time, for example, 9 a.m. before work or after getting off work. A clear trigger makes persistence easier. 4. Build a reward system. Design rewards to boost your motivation after completing the mini habit. 5. Track your progress. Keep a daily record of whether you completed the habit. 6. Start small, exceed expectations. Once you begin, do more than the minimum if you can. Don't stop at just one push-up. 7. Stick to the plan and let go of high expectations. After a while you might think, one push-up is too easy, I can do 10. Resist raising the goal. Focus on long-term consistency, not the size of a single session. The author argues that sustained frequency matters more than one-time intensity. 8. Look for signs the habit is formed. Don't stop the mini habit plan until the habit is truly ingrained. These steps are straightforward, but there are 3 critical points to keep in mind when applying mini habits. First, how small is small enough? Suppose you can easily do 20 push-ups. Would you set your goal at 10 or 20? The author says 1. Why? When 20 wouldn't drain much willpower. The trick to mini habits is to shrink the goal to the point of absurdity so small the brain sees no threat. Most people make the mistake of setting habit goals equal to what they can do on a good day, ignoring that energy and motivation fluctuate wildly. Demanding daily average performance assumes you're in the same mental state every day, but life rarely cooperates. When you hit a rough patch and miss the goal, resentment builds. A few failures lead to frustration, and the habit collapses. So set a goal so small it's ridiculous. Most days, you'll do more, but on tough days, You can just hit the minimum. As the author says, there's no such thing as a mini habit. That's too small. If you're unsure, go smaller. The second obstacle is persistence. But mini habits eliminate this too. Since your goal is set so low. Second, the substitute reward system. Because mini habits are so small, their immediate impact is negligible. When you do one push-up or write 50 words, your brain notices no change or reward, and the brain repeats actions only when it gets rewards. For fitness, the payoff, a healthy body, takes time. In the moment, working out just makes your muscles scream, we want to rest. When you get home, you're rewarded with sweat and soreness. Your brain asks, what's the point? Why not sleep more? People who love exercise get a natural reward. Running triggers endorphins, creating a runner shy, but mini habits are too low effort to trigger that. So, the author suggests a substitute reward. When the habit itself doesn't yield physical rewards yet, create artificial ones for your brain. For example, after a run or writing 50 words, watch a funny video. Laughter releases mood-boosting chemicals, tricking your brain into associating the habit with pleasure. Once the habit is ingrained and the body gives real rewards, you can drop this crutch. Third, how to tell if a habit is formed. The author shares several signs. One is a shift in identity. Instead of saying I write X words a day, you say I'm a writer. Instead of I read X pages a day, you say I'm an avid reader. That shift signals the habit has taken root. Another sign is automaticity. You no longer think, do I need to work out today? You just think, it's exercise time. When the action happens without deliberation, the habit is formed. A third sign is confidence and consistency. You used to worry about quitting, but now you know, I'll keep doing this unless there's an emergency. When your mindset shifts like this, that tiny mini habit has grown into a self-sustaining big tree. To summarize, mini habits introduces a new approach to building habits. Why use mini habits? Because we usually rely on two flawed strategies: motivation unreliable and willpower hard to sustain. The solution is mini habits. So small they use almost no willpower, letting the brain act before resisting. This lets us bypass the too big obstacles to habit building: difficulty starting and difficulty persisting. Applying mini habits involves 8 steps, with 3 key points. Shrink the goal to absurdity, use substitute rewards, and watch for identity shifts or automaticity to confirm the habit is formed. On the topic of habit building, we previously discussed the power of habit on this show. That book explains how to build a habit system using cues, actions, and rewards, the basic principles of habit formation. Mini habits, by contrast, teaches how to use tiny goals to make action so easy that success feels effortless. This reminds me of a trick I discovered years ago, which I call the green light rule. When I want to do something but face obstacles and pressure, I tell myself, don't wait for all the lights to turn green, start at the first green light. Mini habits are the ultimate upgrade of this rule, breaking that green light into absorbed small actions to maximize its power. If you are interested in habit building, I recommend listening to our episode on the power of habit. It will deepen your understanding of this book. Congratulations on finishing another book and learning a new way to build habits. See you next time.